Hey everyone, this is CXCD. Welcome to my video series on hostile mob ranching, otherwise known as mob spawners. This is the first video in a series. Doing it this way allowed me to organize the material better for you. So, although the other videos in the series all focus on my mob spawner design, in this introductory video, I'll be taking a look at the current state of the art in mob spawning technology in general, so that you can get a sense of what your best options are. So first, let's quickly remind ourselves why we even care about mob spawners, So if you want to use a bow or TNT or accelerate the growth of crops or trees or, a lot of things like that, killing mobs is really the most practical way to do these things. And also, if you combine a mob spawner with the right villagers, you've pretty much got an emerald factory, and that can pretty much lead to any of the most, valuable items in the whole game. So mob spawning, pretty useful. So let's take a look at how it's done. Now, I've given this a little bit of thought, and I've come to the conclusion that pretty much all mob spawners can be categorized into one of four major categories. And the categories are these. One is high-tech, two is the idiot filter, three is the timed flush, and four is the flush on demand. Let's take a look at each of these categories and see what I'm talking about here. Now, the high-tech category basically includes very complex redstone and slime block type of construction. It also includes designs that use quirks that maybe could be considered glitches. A couple I'm thinking of from Mumbo Jumbo. I'll put the links right here. It's clear these are in a category by themselves. But let's take a look at one in particular. All right, let's take a look at our first mob spawner, which is the exotic category. This one's by P-Town. And I'm really quite fond of it. It's really a very cool mob spawner, and I really did want it to work. As you can see, he left it kind of open so that you can see through it, which is pretty cool. And basically, he's got a lot of pistons that push this floor, the spawning floors, back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and close it up right now and see if we start getting some spawning, and then we'll turn it on and see how it works. Yeah, so what's interesting in this mechanic is that even with these half slabs, the lighting is still completely dark in here. If you look at the light level on the left of the screen, you see where it says 0 sky and 0 block. Whereas if I punch a hole in here, instantly we got 15 sky. So that's how you check that. So right now, if I move away from this thing 24 blocks, and that's what this purple circle is, I should start seeing some things spawn. And yep, they're spawning. And the whole idea with this mob spawner is that once the floor starts going back and forth, these guys are going to get shaken out. Okay. But unfortunately, the very first thing we notice, although we see the floor going back and forth, they're not falling through. So it looks like this is 1.9 I'm doing right now, like, nothing fancy, special things, but it looks like they patched this. It looks like this sliding floor business does not work anymore. So maybe I'm doing something incorrectly. I don't think I am, but these mobs do not drop. I also had a lot of problems with, very strange glitches where blocks would just disappear from here, and sometimes the one on the end here would actually stop moving. As you can see, when I move around, I'm just holding the W key. So that's a lot of lag, a lot of complexity, a lot of drain on the server. I just gonna turn that off so we can get back to normal here. And yeah, and it doesn't work. So to me, that kind of sums up the whole notion of these exotic spawners, where if it's too complicated like this, it's probably just going to be not worth your while. All right, the next next category of mob spawners we're going to take a look at is the idiot filter. Now, I have to explain this name, which I have given this type of spawner. It doesn't refer to the people who designed it or someone who may have used it. It's a perfectly reasonable and intelligent thing to use. It's just that um, the idiot in this case is the mob. Okay, so basically, an idiot box, an idiot filter, relies on the mob being stupid, right? So if you're a mob and you spawn right here, you don't have to walk off the edge, do you? You don't have to say, "Oh, hey, look at this. There's a ledge here. I'm going to just walk off it," right? That would be very stupid. Um, but of course, some mobs do that, and the mobs that do that are the idiots, the ones who stay, on these ledges without walking off of them stupidly, are the less stupid ones. So that's why I call it the idiot filter. It filters the idiot mobs from the more intelligent mobs. Of course, the problem is that all the intelligent mobs, you don't get to have them. You don't get to harvest them, and of course, almost all mobs will turn into idiots eventually. But the smarter the mob is, the longer he waits before he takes that fateful exploratory step off the ledge and down into the chute. Um, Now, as you can see in this particular design, um, which is Rails to Revolution, I believe. I think those were the guys I first saw do this. But there's a lot of spawners very, very similar. I like it, its elegance for how kind of basic it is and how simple and straightforward it is. But yeah, you see, I have these trapdoors here, and when I first heard about this, it was actually with signs. People said, if you have signs everywhere, like so, a mob will just walk right off because he'll think that this is a block, but it's not a block, and he'll get confused and he'll walk off. Well, I used to put signs everywhere, and I never felt like that worked. I always felt like that was a waste of time. And then I kind of heard, oh, no, signs, of course, don't work. No, you need trapdoors, of course. And so I did that, and I always felt like that didn't work either. So I actually did some pretty substantial testing. All right, so let's take a look at what the results of that experiment were. So basically, I took a look at how many drops this idiot filter box produced in 60 minutes, and with absolutely no adornment to the ledges, it produced 354. Now, when I put signs around all of the drop-offs that the mobs might walk across, I got 440. So I was actually quite surprised. I was kind of getting pretty discouraged about the signs. I thought they didn't do anything, but apparently they do have some small effect. But that was nothing compared to the shock I felt when I saw the results for trapdoors. Trapdoors really do actually help quite a bit. So you will pretty much, more than double your productivity by lining any edges you hope mobs will stupidly walk off of with trapdoors, folded down, of course. So that was quite a result. That's quite interesting. This mob spawner design is very, very reasonable, very low tech, very straightforward. There's not a lot of things that can go too terribly wrong, except maybe mobs don't spawn, maybe they don't walk off the edges as well as you'd like them to. But overall, it works okay. It's an okay spawner. It's an okay way to go. This next category, the timed flush category, is probably the most common and popular and well known. The most popular particular design, I think, is probably the one by Mumbo Jumbo that exploits this mechanic. But there's another one by Redstone Jazz that I think is actually quite a bit more elegant. I like it a lot more. If I was going to employ this, I would probably go with the Redstone Jazz type of a build. But I'm going to include both these links so that you can take a look. But because the Mumbo Jumbo one is so popular, and it's a completely reasonable choice and a perfectly good mob spawner, I'm going to go ahead and focus on it because I'm going to just consider it the gold standard. Like if you can beat this one, I feel like that means that you've got a mob spawner that's better than average. So let's take a closer look at Mumbo's time flush mob spawner. Yeah, this is an excellent mob trap. It works on a hopper clock, as you can see. Basically, the signal goes back and forth, and what it does is it powers these lines here, which underneath each one of these blocks is a dispenser with some water. So, of course, that means you need a lot of buckets. And inside, you can see that the water comes out and cleverly matches the pattern that the water is going to make, and it pushes mobs off. So now is the time that mobs can spawn on this platform, and now mobs can spawn on both platforms. But the big problem with this spawner, of course, is that once the water kicks on, well, mobs no longer can spawn on this platform. And, you know, when this water comes on, mobs can't spawn anywhere in here. So right now, there is no mob spawning at all. This mob spawner is basically spending all of this cycle. It's like half of its time clearing out what you hope are the mobs that have already spawned. Go ahead and seal this up. All right, so now it's totally dark in there, and we can expect there to be some spawning action pretty soon. But of course, we got to wait a little while because you know, the mobs don't just have to spawn, they have to get flushed out. And you can see that I basically have one floor here. Mumbo, of course, his design had 6 floors, and that's totally, you know, reasonable. Make it as big as you think you need to. I'm just showing the basic idea here and what's involved. There we go. There's our first drops. Yeah, and they're going to come out in kind of waves. But this whole bottom collection thing I had to redesign because, you know, he just basically had this open to the air, which, you know, had 2 problems. The first problem is you're going to need a huge collection system somewhere, you know, and he used hoppers, which, you know, I felt was totally ridiculous, not very smart at all in survival. So here you can see that inside of here it is, you know, perfectly dark. But that's, of course, the second reason that you need to have this collection system be pretty solid, is because if you have it, you know, open down here, it's going to actually leak light up into here. And maybe this bottom level wasn't so important to his thing, but as you can see, like, there's 0 light level in here. Oh, I want to mention another thing too. The in this pulse generator, I think that's what this is. Sometimes it glitches out, and I used a diamond block here because sometimes it replicates this block. I've had, like, you know, entire stacks of them. You know, I come back after leaving it running for a while, and it looks like that. So, yeah, I highly recommend you use diamond blocks for this because it can sometimes give you some bonuses. But yeah, that's Mumbo's classic timed flush water dispenser mob spawner design. It's a good design, works fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but yeah, I think there can be some improvement. All right, so now that we've taken a look at the other mob spawner designs, let's take a look at my mob spawner design. As you can see, all these mobs are floating towards the front, and as they go by, these lights go on. And the reason that is, let's just pop in there and have a quick look. I think the right place to do that would be right there. Yep. So yeah, there's a tripwire right here. So as I trigger these tripwires, as I go by them, you know, I get pushed into the next one until I get pushed off. So this is a very thorough mob spawner, as it's shown here. So basically, what's nice about it is that it's not only got this window that lets you see in it, but if there are mobs in it, the mobs, while they're being flushed, get lit up so you can see exactly what's going on, exactly what you can expect. I find that to be, you know, it's actually really quite a fun mob spawner because you can just sort of, you know, like, oh, it's a zombie. You know, it's not like there's this mysterious black box where a bunch of groans are going on inside of it and you hope it's going your way. No, you can see, yep. Bye-bye. And down you go. Boom. So Yeah. And then the actual construction's pretty simple. You know, there's a wall with some holes in it, and then you have this redstone conduit layer here, and then you cover it up basically, and you put a roof on it. That's about as hard as it is. I have another video that shows a very complete build tutorial, but basically that's it. It's not that much more complicated than that. So yeah, when we get far enough away, the things can start to spawn. They start to spawn, and they spawn with a vengeance. There we go. All right, so let me talk a little bit about another topic here. Um, so when I first designed this, and you know the many times that I've used it, I basically have these 6 tripwire lines that get lit up, that light up these lights as the mobs get pushed across. But when I'm first starting out in a world, or you know with a build or whatever, and I don't have a lot of resources, and I certainly don't have a 180 string, you know that's why I'm building a mob spawner. I sometimes just put in one line of string. And just recently I went ahead and did some experiments because I was curious. I thought, well, if I'm only going to put in one line of string, what would be the best line of string to put in for the most efficient productivity with just one line of string? So I started doing some tests, and I went ahead and measured the drops in 15 minutes with this spawner, and when all 6 strings were hooked up, I got basically, say, 374 drops every 15 minutes. It doesn't matter what the actual number is. Let's think about it in comparative terms here. But when I just did string number 6, I got 489, so quite a substantial improvement. And then when I did number 5, I got 513, 585, 671. And the absolute maximum was 782. So and it was 625 on number 1. But so it was number 2 at 782 drops per quarter hour that was actually not just the best performer for one string, but that was the best possible arrangement of tripwire in this whole spawner. So basically, if you take out all the tripwire except for number 2 here, you're going to have the highest productivity. And so actually, in the comparison tests that I run later, I go ahead and take out the other strings. It turns out that you don't actually need 180 string. You only need 30. And with 30, you can have a very high productivity mob spawner that will generate a lot of spiders, and you will easily be able to get so much string you don't even know what to do with it. And just as a lark, you'll put these lines in here just to have an entertaining mob spawner to look at. So let's take a quick look at the resource usage, sort of a comparison between Mumbo's spawner and mine. First item is redstone dust. I don't think that's that important. It's relatively easy to find redstone dust. In fact, I kind of think it's too easy to find redstone dust in modern Minecraft. The iron is a lot more of an issue, and my spawner definitely wins on the iron, and that's because Mumbo's requires so many darn buckets. String can be a big issue with mine. If you want to put all of those string lines in, that's 180 string, and if you needed string in the first place and that's why you built a mob spawner, that can be a real problem. But my mob spawner also allows you to put in as few as, say, 10 or 15 string and start generating spiders from that. And also, it's pretty efficient even with very little string. So there's some little bit of flexibility on that. I think one of the most important ways that my mob spawner distinguishes itself from Mumbo's in terms of resource utilization is mine does not require any quartz because there are no comparators, and mine does not require any slime because there is no sticky pistons. Mumbo's is actually 408 spawning blocks, whereas mine is 450. So it might seem a little unfair that, of course I get higher yields, but, feel free to prorate his and see if the numbers are still satisfactory to you. But yeah, the resources, I feel pretty good that mine's quite efficient on resources. All right, so let's take a look at how that experiment turned out. The idiot filter with the trapdoors put in there that produced 616 drops in an hour. Mumbo's time flush mob spawner produced 1,530, and my flush on demand mob spawner with only one string installed, string number 2, the one second closest to the pistons, produced 2,698 drops. So, as you can see, that's a huge improvement. This is a really, really efficient design. All right, well, there you go. I hope you guys found this helpful. Um, so, like I said, there was another video that shows how to actually build a complete build tutorial for my mob spawner. If you're interested in that, I'm going to put a link up. I also have some other videos related to my mob spawner that I'll also will put links to as they become available. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and fire them at me because, yeah, I'm obviously interested in this topic, and I don't know. I just felt like, the information that was out there was kind of all over the place and kind of hard to sort of collect into one place and make sense of it in the modern context. So I thought I would go ahead and put that together and do some experiments and try to make it easy for other people to make some progress. So if you make some progress, definitely share it with the community and let me know. All right, so good luck with your mob spawner. Take care.